Welcome to the Mobile Classroom, the weekly podcast where we demonstrate today's most popular technologies. I'm James Messer, and in this episode, we're going to talk about taking what you already have inside of your browser and extending the capabilities. Some of those capabilities are already built into your browser. You may not know about them. We'll also talk a lot about putting things onto your browser, some add-ons and some plugins that can really help you really use your browser in ways you may have never even realized before. Before we talk about the browser, I'd like to let you know that this is one of our free Mobile Classroom podcasts. So if you are someone who's listened to our podcast before, you know that we have a number of podcasts that are absolutely free, and we have a number of podcasts that are just for our mobile members. And this week, everything in here, all of the content is absolutely free. If you're watching this for free, the only thing you really don't get is this in high resolution. And we have a 720p, a 1280 by 720 high resolution view of this in high def. So that's one thing that if you are a mobile member, then you're probably already watching this in high definition right now. If you'd like to learn more about our mobile members or becoming a mobile member, you can visit our website at themobileclassroom.com/members. Today, we're going to talk all about expanding the browser, and we spend so much time inside of our browser. We're on the net constantly, and having some extra additions and some extra add-ons will help a lot with understanding how we can use the browser even more efficiently. We'll talk a lot about Firefox, primarily because Firefox is just so darn expandable. There's so much inside of Firefox that you can tweak and that you can change. You may not realize that Internet Explorer also has a number of capabilities that you're able to add on to. Perhaps not as many as Firefox, but we're going to show you some interesting ways to extend and expand the capabilities of Internet Explorer as well. Now, you'll notice one particular name that's a very popular browser isn't in here, and that's Chrome. There is a beta version of Chrome available. If you're watching this now in the early January, then you've probably, if you've used Chrome before, you've probably seen that Chrome isn't very expandable. There's no way to add plugins. There's no way to tack things onto it. Well, that's changing. The latest beta version of Chrome has capabilities now to extend and expand onto the capabilities that is there. Obviously, this is still in beta, so this is not something that's immediately available and in completely bug-free released form, but it may be worth looking into if after this video you think maybe I'd like to use Chrome. It is a very, very fast browser. You can go to google.com/landing/chrome/beta, or just type in Google Chrome into Google. It'll certainly take you where you need to go. And that beta version has a number of really nice plugins and add-ons that you can use to extend the capabilities of Chrome. So if you're somebody who uses Chrome a lot, you're going to really like that beta version. Now, much of our podcast today is going to be talking about expanding and adding on capabilities to the browser. But I thought before we did that, there are a number of really nice tips and tricks that are already built into your browser that can help you use it right now. You don't have to add anything onto it to be able to do this. One feature that I use a lot, and really not a lot of people know about this one, I'll mention it occasionally and somebody will say, I can do that, is you type in only part of the domain name you're looking for, the thing that you're putting into the address bar. So if you want to go to Google, most people will type www.google.com. Type it all the way out and hit enter. But if you just type Google and you hold down the control button and hit enter, it'll put the www and the .com on the front and the back of that automatically. Especially for long domain names and you want to save a little bit of typing, you can type ESPN Control Enter and it will take you to the ESPN website. If it's a .net address, you can try Shift Enter. And different browsers will work differently depending on the extension, but Control Enter seems to be one of those universal things across Safari, across Chrome, across Internet Explorer, across Firefox, works all the time. I'll show you how to use that in just a moment. But there's also another feature I use a lot is called full screen. It's an F11 and it takes all of the things in the background, all of the menu bars and everything, and gets rid of them temporarily so that you can really fill up your screen with what you're looking at. If you're doing a demonstration, you're trying to show someone something on the screen that really is taking up too much room, you'd like to get rid of all the clutter that's around your screen, F11 is a quick way to do that. It's a nice way to bring everything big. Sometimes you do it by accident. Suddenly everything disappears and you wonder what happened. Well, you probably hit F11. And the last one that I'm constantly using in a browser is Control F. It's the find capability. It's something that's probably in your edit menu now. You can just select it from the menu, but this is just a quick way to bring up the find so that if you have a long screen of text that goes on and on and on, and you're just looking for one word, that Control F, and you type in the name and hit enter, it takes you right to the particular word you're looking for. That can help really, really quick to find what you're looking for. By remembering just a few keystrokes, you can really save a lot of time in your browser. I'm in Windows Internet Explorer right now. One of the things that I also don't ever do is I never click on the address bar. I do an Alt-D, and that takes you, and notice it highlights everything in your address bar. So my hands don't have to leave the keyboard. I can simply hit an Alt-D. I can type the mobile classroom, and I can hold down the control key and hit enter, and it fills in the beginning with the www and the .com at the end. And now I'm on the mobile classroom website. If I want to go to another website, I simply hit Alt-D, it highlights it again. I type in the name of the domain and hit Control Enter, and it goes to that domain. A very quick way to go into your browser, hit the address bar, type in just what you're looking for, hit a Control Enter, and you're on your site. You never left the keyboard. You never had to use the mouse. You never had to figure out where the address bar was. Just very, very, very easy to use. And if you use that Control F, you can then type in, notice the find box pops up there right on the screen, and you can type in something in your find box like OpenOffice. Because I know I just did one on OpenOffice, and it takes us right to the OpenOffice.org episode that we did recently. So that's a very quick way to find whatever you needed. Even though I've got a lot of different episodes on this screen, I was able to find just that word very quickly, just with a couple of keystrokes. If you're like me, Firefox is your primary browser. You use it all day, every day. It's where you always go to get everything done. But one of the things you may have noticed is that if you go to a website that is heavily focused on using Windows Media Player to be able to show you media on that website, your Firefox browser by default won't show any of that. And that's using some ActiveX controls and some other capabilities that are simply embedded within of Internet Explorer, except Firefox isn't able to take advantage of that until now. We have an add-on for Firefox that allows us to be able to make use of the Windows Media Player even though we're inside of Firefox. Let me show you how that works. I obviously am not the only person with this problem. There is an entire knowledge base article out on the Mozilla.com website that talks about using the Windows Media Player plugin with Firefox. And so there is a very specific plugin that you can get for Firefox that allows you to do this. This is a great article in the knowledge base because it really breaks down for you exactly how to check to even know if you have this plugin. You can find all of your plugins, and these are extensions that really extend the internal capabilities of the browser. Under the Tools pull-down menu, there's a section here for add-ons, and within add-ons, there are a lot of different options up here. The one you want to look for is plugins, and if you look in here, you're looking for a very specific plugin, just like this says right here, that is the Microsoft Windows Media Player Firefox plugin. And I don't have this. You can see it's not in my list of very small plugins. This is a default configuration for Firefox. So this one does not have this plugin. Within this very same article is this link that says, go get the plugin. Let's go download it. We'll go to this website. It's called Port25. It's an open source community. And this was actually built by an open source community at Microsoft to help assist playing Microsoft Media Player within Firefox. So this is really useful. There's a big download now button right there. I'm going to click it. It says I've chosen to open WMP Firefox Plugin.exe. Yes, save that off. It's going to bring up my download screen in Firefox, and we're going to download that file. In my download window, I now have that executable file for the WMP Firefox plugin. We'll double click. It says that this is an executable file. This could be a bad thing, but we know where we downloaded this from, and we feel pretty good that this is a perfectly safe program. So let's click OK. The installation program says, are you ready to run this file? This is Windows now telling us that these files can be harmful. Yes, Windows, we know at this point that we're pretty happy with that. And so we get this screen. Welcome to the Windows Media Player Firefox Plugin Setup Wizard. What could be easier? Let's click Next. And of course, we have software license terms we have to follow. And you'll want to read through all of your license terms. Make sure that you're not giving up anything you don't want to give up. I accept the terms of this license agreement. And it says click to install the installation. There we go. We'll begin. Please wait while we install the Windows Media Player Firefox plugin. It's relatively small. It's not a huge file. So this installation process doesn't take a long time. Simply click and it installs pretty quickly. Let's see now if we can see what difference there might be in our plugins. If I go to my Tools Add-ons under the Plugins option, I do have a new option here for the Microsoft Windows Media Player Firefox plugin version 1.0.0.8. There it is. That's what should allow us now to play videos within our Firefox. And I'm going to move back to that knowledge base article because not only is there a download link, there's a test link. So for testing the plugin, I can go to this development site for Mozilla. We'll click there, and sure enough, inside of that site is a Windows Media Player test video. If you can see that video, that plugin is working properly now inside of Firefox, and now you're integrating together all of the things you would normally have inside your Firefox along with this Windows Media Player content. As we were installing that media player, we were opening up other windows, other things were happening on the screen. We had a lot of different versions of Firefox, different instances of Firefox running at the bottom of the screen. So there are a lot of windows. But I'm the kind of person who, when I'm working in my browser, doesn't like to have a lot of separate windows up. I like to have everything in tabs, and I recognize that's a personal preference. Some people like to have everything in a separate window. It's completely up to the way you work. But if you're somebody like me who loves to have a lot of tabs on the screen and one single browser window, you're really going to like this add-on for Firefox called Tab Mix Plus. Let's install it and I'll show you what it does. If you're on one web page and you would like to be able to click a link but not leave the page that you're on, one thing you can do is hold down the Shift key and click that link, and that's going to open up a brand new window. You can see down here at the bottom of the screen, I now have two Firefox windows running, my original one at the support page and now a download page. But as I mentioned, I like to have everything in tabs. I like to really not have a lot of different windows at the bottom of my screen. I want one Firefox window, and I just want to separate everything out into tabs within that single window. So let's go back to our original. We'll close out that second window so we're back at this original. Let's go to the Tools pull-down menu and choose Add-ons, but instead of plugins, we're going to select extensions. I only have one extension in here right now. It was added when we put OpenOffice onto this machine. It's the Java Quick Starter extension, but there are a lot more extensions out there. Let's click the Get Add-ons option, and it even gives us some ideas of some things we can add that are recommendations right out of the gate. And these will change from time to time. What I'd like to do is browse all of the add-ons, and this will take you to a Mozilla site that has thousands of add-ons. You can see all of the different categories here for things that you can do. You could spend hours and hours. I could have an entire podcast that would do nothing but tell you about all of the add-ons within Firefox. One I'm interested in is one called Tab Mix Plus. We'll type that in and we'll search within all of these add-ons. And there's the one right at the top called Tab Mix Plus. Now here's how you would add an extension or an add-on into Firefox. It is so simple. We'll click this button that says Add to Firefox, and within the browser itself is an installation and management process. So you don't have to go out to your hard drive. You don't have to find the file. You don't have to run a separate installation program. Very, very simple. It gives you a delay so that you can make sure that you are seeing this window before clicking the install button, just in case there's some software that's trying to be malicious. It says you've asked to install Tab Mix Plus. Yes, I have. We'll click Install Now. Our add-on screen pops up. You can see it installed, and it said, we need to restart Firefox to complete your changes. That sounds good to me. We will restart, and it says, well, we'll try to restore your tabs and windows when it comes up. That sounds good. We'll click the restart button. Firefox goes away, and then Firefox reloads. Before Firefox is started up, you can see we get a message now that says from Tab Mix Session Manager that Firefox already has built into it a session restore feature, so that if you exited out with a lot of sessions there and you started back up, Firefox will remember that. Would you like to enable the built-in session restore and disable the Tab Mix Session Manager? Well, since this is already built into Firefox, we might as well just use the capabilities of Firefox. If there are some things within the Tab Mix Session Manager you'd like to use, you can always add it in or restore it later on. Let's use the yes, which is our default here. And it says one new add-on has been installed. That sounds good. We're going to close out our add-ons window. Notice now I have two tabs on my window. I have the one that I just left with my add-ins for Firefox, and I have my using the Windows Media Player that I was looking at earlier. And under my Tools pull-down menu, there is a new option for Tab Mix Plus options. A lot of capabilities in here, a lot of extensibility in here. You can really do a lot with Tab Mix Plus. One of the things it says right here on the first links option is open links that open in a new window. Instead of opening in a new window, open it in a new tab. That's exactly what I was looking for earlier. Open links from other applications in a new tab. Here's the option I really like. It's one called Enable Single Window Mode. That means that now in Firefox, everything will be in a single window. I'm going to enable that, and we'll click OK. And now if I wanted to open up a new window, normally you type Control N or you go to the File menu and say Open up a new window. Notice now it doesn't go to a new window, it goes to a new tab. It's almost as if you hit the Control T. So now you don't have another window that pops up. I can type Google and Control Enter and that goes to Google. If I do a Control N, I can now open up another one and just adds up the tabs across the top of the screen. The options with the Tab Mix Plus allow you to set the size for these tabs, allows you to set what they look like, allows you to set what the X looks like. You've got a lot of different options in Tab Mix Plus that we could really spend another complete podcast just talking about all of the different options and what they do. But an extremely useful add-on that has really been able to allow me to manage exactly the way I want to work inside of Firefox and have everything happen inside of tabs. I can tell my tabs when a new window starts, open it up in a tab. If there's JavaScript that pops open a new window, open it in a full-size tab or resize the window, depending on what the JavaScript does. You have now a lot more control than you had before, all because you just installed Tab Mix Plus. As you can imagine, I do a lot of uploading, I do a lot of downloading. There's a lot that happens inside of the browser that I use. And when you're downloading a lot, one of the things we've already seen during this podcast is when you click download, this big download box pops up on your screen, which shows you everything that you've downloaded so far, gives you status of what's happening with the downloads running. But sometimes that's too much information. You just want to click a download, go to the next thing, not have to worry about a pop-up that's coming up all the time. So there's this great little add-on called Status Bar, this download status bar that takes everything and minimizes it into a much smaller area. Let's give it a shot. The process for installing our download status bar, pretty much the same as what we were looking at earlier. If I click my Tools pull-down menu, we'll choose Add-ons. Under Extensions, let's get Add-ons. And in fact, I'm just going to, instead of going to the main page, let's search right from here and choose Download Status Bar and hit Enter. And it shows us, yes, Download Status Bar. That's the one that I'd like. I can add to Firefox directly within Firefox now and have it go download and install this particular Download Status Bar add-on. It's going to connect. It shows us again that same window with the countdown timer. I do want to install that right now. It's going to put it into our extensions view. There it is. And it says you're going to need to restart Firefox to complete your changes. We come back into Firefox and it says one new add-on has been installed. It's the Download Status Bar, and it takes us to the About Download Status Bar screen. You can see it shows us how to manage all of these downloads that we have from a tiny status bar. So let's close out this window and let's give it a shot. Let's go to download some files. Good place to go would be the mobile classroom. I'll hit Control Enter and I'll go to www.themobileclassroom.com. From the Mobile Classroom website, I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and we have some options for watching these videos right now. One thing that you can do is you can right mouse click on this and you can save this particular link. We're going to save this link information, save the link as, and it's going to bring it up and say, what would you like to save? This is the computer audio podcast we did last week in 960 by 540 resolution. I'm just going to click save. Notice that instead of that normal big box that pops up, down at the bottom of the screen is a little status bar. And that status bar gives us all of the information that we would normally get from inside that pop-up box. We mouse over it, and you can see it's slowly downloading that particular file. If I right mouse click, maybe I'd also like the iPod resolution. We'll save this link, and I'll just use the default name there. Opens up another status bar window at the bottom. We never had that pop-up box show up. So we can keep going down and doing other things, and always at the bottom of the screen, we'll know exactly the status of what's going on. If we wanted to pause this, we can right mouse click, we can pause this download, we can right mouse click again and resume this download. And so it gives us a lot more flexibility than we had before, and really an at-a-glance view of how many downloads do I have going right now, what is the status of all of those downloads, allows us a little bit more control. If you'd still like to see what's going on with your downloads, you still have the Tools pull-down menu and the Downloads option, which takes you back to exactly what you had before. This is just another way to kind of skip that step and yet still have some visibility of what's going on. If you would like to clear this out so you never saw these anymore, there's always a clear button over here as well, so that these will disappear and you don't have to look at them at all. I Google a lot. I use Google to search for things all the time. I'm doing research. I want to learn more about some of the things that I'm looking at on the screen. And one of the things that I used to have to do is go up to a search screen. I'd have to type in what I'm looking for, or I'd have to go to the Google site itself to go what I'm looking for, to find what I'm looking for. But now there is a capability, an add-on that I found called Quick Drag, which simplifies that a great deal. Let me show you how. We install Quick Drag the same way we install everything else. The Tools pull-down menu. Let's go to our add-ons. In our extensions, I'm going to get some add-ons. This one's called Quick Drag. We'll hit enter, and there it is. We can extend the function of drag and drop and mouse gestures so it can be used to load URLs, do a web search, or to save an image. This is really good. So let's add that to our Firefox. We are connecting. We get our install countdown. Install it right now. And we need to restart Firefox to complete our changes. Our new add-on has been installed. We're getting quite a list of add-ons here, aren't we? Now let's go to a website. I'm using the Mobile Classroom as a good example today, so let's use that one. And let's scroll down a little bit. You may be looking at some of the text on the screen, and you're saying computer audio, USB FireWire. What is FireWire? I'm really interested in knowing more about that. If I double click, one of the things you can do in Windows is double click a word and it highlights that entire word. And then I'm just going to click on and hold my mouse button and drag it out of the way. Just drag it off a little bit until it becomes this little floating FireWire, and then let up on my mouse. And you didn't see it, but right here, there's a tab that popped up that's FireWire Google Search. It opened up a Google search for what I had highlighted. It's like magic, isn't it? Let's do another one. Let's choose to look at Mixer. I want to find out more about mixers. I'll double click, I'll click and drag, and now Mixer. I have a new tab for Google Search. See how I like this tab-based functionality? I didn't have to go anywhere. It just opened up a new tab for me right there. There's my FireWire search. How fast is that? If you're looking at an image, you really like to save an image, you can click and drag an image off, and it's going to save that image into a certain place on the hard drive. You can even see it did a status bar download here where it took that thumbnail and it saved it off onto my hard drive, into my download directory, just by dragging and moving it off to the side. This whole dragging capability really extends the functionality of your browser. You can do a lot more in a much shorter amount of time just by highlighting information and dragging it off, and now you've got a search already made available. There are some other capabilities within our Quick Drag that you don't see anywhere. In fact, if you go to the Tools pull-down menu, it's not even listed in here. One of the things that you can do is go back to your add-on screen. You can choose Quick Drag, and whenever you choose that, you'll find there's an Options button that pops up on these. So if you're ever trying to figure out how you can modify any one of these, all of your options are going to be right there. It can open tabs for web addresses in the foreground, text searches in the foreground, drag and drop to download images. If you don't like that, you can turn it on or off, or open clickable links in new tabs instead of searching or saving. Well, we've already got our Tab Mix Plus, so we know that it's going to open up in a new tab. But there's some options there for Quick Drag. If you want options for Tab Mix Plus, instead of going to the menus, you can simply click the options there. Just an easy way to get to any options for any of the things that you've added onto your system. We've talked a lot about Firefox at this point, but we really haven't done a lot with Internet Explorer, certainly not extending the capabilities of Internet Explorer. And that's primarily because there's not a lot of functionality within Internet Explorer that really allows you to tweak it and extend it to the level that Firefox has, certainly. But if you're in a corporate environment, or you're in an environment where you're using applications that have been specifically built to use the Internet Explorer browser, you may not have a choice. You may have to use Internet Explorer. Fortunately, there is a great add-on called Maxthon that allows you to really extend the capabilities of Internet Explorer. Let's load that up and see what it looks like. Let's first download and install Maxthon. I'll do my Alt-D, Maxthon, Control-Enter. Takes us to www.maxthon.com. This is an add-on. It is essentially a new browser, but it's using the Internet Explorer engine. So if an application that uses Internet Explorer, Maxthon will work perfectly with it because it essentially behind the scenes is using Internet Explorer to be able to work. This is something that was created in China, so there are a ton of add-ons that are in Chinese and other languages as well. It's very universal. You can see it is very, very popular as well. This is, I think, the #1 or #2 browser that's in China. So you can see a lot of different downloads here, 320 million so far. I'm going to download the latest version 2.5.11, and we'll click download now. And it's simply the same download and install process that you might have for any other program. Do I want to run this file? Yes, I do. It'll start downloading it, and when it's finished, we'll run the install process. Internet Explorer says you're downloading an executable and running it. Does that sound good with you? Yes, it does. We'll verify this program and then start the installation program. We first get a license agreement for Maxthon. If we agree with the contents, we can click I agree to continue. You can set this up as a desktop shortcut, a quick launch shortcut, set it as the default browser, and set up a Facebook sidebar plugin. Well, for the purposes of our demonstration system, I don't want this to be the default browser, and I don't want to have a sidebar plugin for Facebook, but it's nice that it comes with that anyway. We'll click Next. It says it's going to put it in Program Files. Maxthon 2 is the default. That sounds good as well. Does the install program. It's really not that big considering it is really a full-blown browser. You have the option here to join the User Experience Improvement Program. You can choose whether you would like to or not. We'll click Next, and it's done. We can run now the Maxthon browser too. I'll click Finish, and we'll start her up. When we first start Maxthon, the first thing it says is that it is not the default browser. Do you want to set it as the default browser? And since, again, this is my demonstration system, I do not want to do that. There is also this login screen where you can synchronize everything back with the Maxthon website. I don't want to use their functionality right now, although that may be something useful, especially if you're using Maxthon at many different locations. You can have everything synchronized together. But let's, instead of logging in, let's just see what the options are for someone who has not logged in or is not synchronizing those things. First, you see the screen is a lot different than Internet Explorer. Even though the engine itself is Internet Explorer, it has a lot of different options here at the top. The screen looks different. The options on the windows look a little bit different, but it is the same options you had before. If you go to the Tools pull-down menu and you go to Internet Options, it brings up the Internet Explorer Internet Options because that is the engine that it is using. But you'll notice there was another set of options as well. Under the Tools, there's the Maxthon Setup Center. So everything in Maxthon can be managed from here. Now, before there was Firefox, before there were tabs, Maxthon was already doing all of those things. And so we have options here for the tabs bar and what you can do with them. So a number of the things that are add-ons for the Firefox things that we just looked at have already been built into Maxthon for years and years and years. The dragging and searching based on what you've selected, it's all been in here forever. This is what I used prior to moving over to Firefox. There's also a lot of capabilities for skinning this. There are plugins just as we have for the ones that we were looking at in Firefox, but these are specific to Maxthon. You can see we can get more Maxthon plugins right here. This is the plugins front end for Maxthon, and it is relatively seamless as well and built into the browser. One challenge you may have, because this is so popular in China, one challenge you have is a lot of these plugins and add-ons are really in other languages. So you can see that a number of these are using some of this text that is really specific to those different countries. You may find that there are some add-ons here that are all completely in English, though. So you may have to poke around to find some things. For instance, let's go to Download Management and see if there's some options here. There are other options in here as a good example of ones that are written in English. So you may have to make sure that the one you're downloading is in the language you need and something you can understand. Maxthon is well supported. They do a lot of development on the application. There are a lot of download for plugins. You can change the skin that's on the screen. A lot of different options for customization. It really is a very nice browser front end to use, especially if the only option you really have is to use Internet Explorer. It's a great way to set that up and use it so that it can be customized and yet still have all the functionality of Internet Explorer behind the scenes. I mentioned earlier in the podcast about Google Chrome's beta version that will allow extension, so I thought it'd be nice to at least give you a feel for what that looks like. If you've never used Google Chrome before, one of the things you'll notice is that first, it's very sleek. There's not a lot of things on the screen, very different than that Maxthon screen we were just looking at. It's also very, 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 very fast. It is a very fast browser, especially on sites that have a lot of JavaScript running. And almost every site these days does tend to have quite a bit of JavaScript. So you will find that if you're using Google Chrome and your system seems to be a little bit snappier, that's no mistake. That is Google Chrome doing what it does best. To add on extensions to Google Chrome, there's this little wrench here where I can click and get to all of these different options for Google Chrome, and there's an option there for extensions. And the extension says that there are no extensions installed. Boo. Would we like to browse the gallery? Why? Yes, I would. Let's click that Browse the Gallery option. It takes us to chrome.google.com/extensions. And this is very similar to that Firefox page we were looking at, where everything is listed by different categories. I can choose which different add-ons to plug in. Now, since Google Chrome is in beta right now, and therefore it has not done a lot of extensions before, there are not quite as many extensions available in Google Chrome. But Chrome is a very popular browser that people are using. So you're going to find at least a very high level of what you might need for extensions, and it may be able to cover all of the bases, things you may need like Google Mail Checker. Cool Iris is in here. There's a blogging front end to this. So a lot of the front ends for Google are built into this. And if you poke around, you'll find that new add-ons and new extensions are being added all the time. Google Chrome, extremely flexible, extremely viable. And perhaps when Google Chrome is finally out of beta, we'll do a full podcast on its capabilities. That ends our podcast for this week, and perhaps now you can see that you can take what you used to be doing in your browser and really add on a lot of functionality, whether you're using Firefox, Internet Explorer, or even Google Chrome. If you'd like to see other podcasts, you can visit our website at themobileclassroom.com. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Twitter/mobileclassroom. And also from our main website, you can join our Facebook page. So anytime we come out with a new podcast, you'll know all about it. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on The Mobile Classroom.